you the latest cake trend. It is a fault line cake. I don't know where this name came from, but the technique is awesome, and I don't know where it started, but I've been seeing it all over social media, and I tried one out myself last week, put it on my Instagram, and it literally blew up. You were all going crazy over it. So I thought I'd do a tutorial. It was only fair. I'm doing mine with pressed flowers. There are loads of designs out there, some with sprinkles or piped rosettes, but when I first saw the cake, I thought there was a lot of buttercream going on. So I decided to try a way where I used as little buttercream as possible, because some people put kind of another layer of buttercream on, do the design, and then another layer, and I just think it's all a bit too much buttercream. But my way is no extra buttercream than you would usually use on a normal cake. So what I have here is some pressed edible flowers. And what I usually do is, when I make a cake, I usually order a big box of edible flowers, and there are sometimes some left over. So rather than them going bad, I actually sandwich it in between a book and leave it under something heavy, such as shelves or something, and they dry out completely and literally last forever. So I have a whole box of pressed edible flowers, and I was just dying to try something new out of it. So I decided to do a fault line cake. So what I've got here is a crumb coated cake. Now I haven't put this in the fridge. Usually I build up my cake, put this in the fridge, and then do the next layer. But I wanted the buttercream still soft because I'm going to stick the edible flowers to it. So what I'm going to do is just stick the flowers around the cake in a sort of band, then put it in the fridge. And what should happen is that the flowers should already stick themselves to the buttercream, so you don't need to add on any extra because the buttercream's still soft from the crumb coating. So I've even got some big petals, which, because the flowers are so delicate, sometimes they break, but I don't want any to go to waste. So I'll use that as kind of a background, and then can always place other flowers on top of it. So I usually go first with the larger flowers. I quite like them overlapping, and even though the flowers don't stick to themselves, it gives the cake a bit of texture. Now I'm just filling in the gaps with smaller flowers. Now obviously, if you're doing the pressed flowers like I am, you need to think ahead, because the flowers take about 10 days to fully dry out. Unfortunately, there's no way of speeding up that process. But like I said, I just keep a load. So when it was my grandma's birthday, I decided to try the new technique out, and I had the flowers already there. So I'm just going to fill the last little bits, and because I'm going to overlap some flowers, I'm just going to get a little bit of buttercream on the back of a palette knife and just apply it to the flower, and then it sticks on. So once you are happy with the band that you've created, now you put this in the fridge and treat it like a normal crumb coating. So I'm going to put this in the fridge for at least half an hour. You can put them in the freezer, however, the moisture of the freezer may affect the flowers, so I would recommend just keeping it to the fridge. Okay, I have just removed my cake from the fridge, and the crumb coating is nice and set. It doesn't come away on my fingers, which means it's time for the next layer, like you would do any other cake. I have some of my Swiss meringue buttercream here. I've kept it white. People also ask me how I get my buttercream white. I have a whole tutorial of how I make my Swiss meringue buttercream. It is naturally white. I don't whiten it any other way. I think it's to do with the quality of butter you're using. I try and use the best quality butter I can use, so it stays white. So, like you would do any cake, you're going to start masking the cake with a second layer, but obviously avoiding the band that you've just created with the flowers. So I'm going to start along the top, and I'm going to roughly place the buttercream kind of around the flowers. So it doesn't matter if it goes over them slightly, because you want to get this effect of them kind of creeping out of the buttercream. And the more rough it looks, the better. So I'm applying the same thickness of buttercream that I would do on a normal cake. And actually, the natural shape of the flowers gives it a really interesting line. So you're going to naturally achieve kind of this jagged edge. And then I'm going to do the same on the bottom. So I'm only putting buttercream on the bottom half of my palette knife because I don't want it to spread up too much. So I just need to fill in the bits where I can see the buttercream. And then over the top. Now I'm going to finish this cake with a rough edge. I've done this before in one of my other videos. Because the edges of kind of the fault line are rough, I thought it would be nice to match it on the top. So I'm spreading the buttercream around over the top. And then the trick with the rough edge is to spread the buttercream over the edge of the cake. So I'm really pushing it off the edge, using the shape of my palette knife to get a nice flat top. And now you smooth it like you would another cake. But obviously you have this line of where you don't have the buttercream. So what your scraper will do is catch the top and the bottom part of the cake. And it doesn't actually feel so different than scraping a normal cake. So I'm just going to start like normal. And every now and then clean my scraper. I'm not applying too much pressure because I don't want to lose this fault line. So I'm going around it quite gently. And naturally the buttercream smooths out. And the gap will close as you smooth the buttercream. So I can see I've got some patches which need a little bit more buttercream. Again, like I would on a normal cake, just patch them up with some extra buttercream. Carefully do it along the fault line as well. But notice I haven't touched the top because I'm leaving it a rough edge. So let's just even that out. And the good part of this cake is that if you're happy with the bottom part of the cake, but you still need to correct some of the top, you can just lift your scraper up and just concentrate on the top layer because you've got that divide. So you can see the flowers kind of creeping out of this crack in the buttercream. It's just such an amazing effect. I love this trend. I don't usually jump on trends like I have done. So this is the part where you can kind of do whatever you want. Quite a few of these fault line cakes have a nice gold rim around the fault line, which really enhances the separation. So I'm going to apply that using my gold paint, the same paint that I used for my gold drips, my last YouTube tutorial. And again, you don't have to keep it rough like this. You can make it nice and sharp and decorate it however you want. But I'm going to paint it gold, so I'm going to put this back in the fridge for another 20 minutes for the buttercream to firm up and then give it a nice gold rim. So my cake has been in the fridge for another half an hour. The buttercream is nice and cold, which means I can paint on it without moving the buttercream around. So I've got a mixture of gold luster dust and a little bit of lemon juice. And what I'm going to do is start with the bottom layer of the fault line. So you do need a finer paintbrush for this because it can be a little fiddly. I'm just going to really carefully just paint a thin line where the buttercream meets the flowers. And what I'm going to try and also do is really enhance the shape of it. So every time the buttercream goes down a bit, I'll paint downwards. The gold is really enhancing the texture of the buttercream. And I'm going to do the same along the top edge, which can be a little trickier. Can't really see underneath. And once you breathe again, you can now go around with the top. So I love outlining a rough edge with gold. And it's really easy to do. You don't need to be as careful as you were on the fault line. I'm just going to drag my paintbrush along the top and it just catches that edge. There you have a fault line cake. So it's actually not as tricky as you would think when you first see this cake. I just absolutely love how versatile buttercream can be. This is just a pure example of how amazing, especially Swiss meringue buttercream. It's just really easy to work with. You can play with textures, and I just love the effect. So you're going to see a lot more of these. Hope you found this helpful. If you do try it out as usual, please tag me at George's Cakes on Instagram. I love seeing your creations more than anything. It makes me so happy. Please subscribe if you haven't already and check out my other videos. And if you have any requests or want to see specific techniques or anything, please write in the comments below and I will do my best to make the tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it and I will see you very soon.